I released a video entitled The Truth About Cats and Their Owners on the 24th of August 2020. It was a truth too far for some people who had been longtime subscribers. This video generated a lot of anger among some of my subscribers who had been quite happy when I discussed the dark side of canines, but who definitely drew the line at having the same arguments directed at felines. I got aggressive and nasty ad hominem insults. I had people telling me that they were unsubscribing. I had people moving on to other platforms and maligning me at a distance. All because I applied the same type of analysis to cats as I did to dogs. What I quickly realized from this is that I had been inadvertently reinforcing a type of faulty logic espoused by both dog and cat worshippers. It's a type of faulty logic that I have discussed many times, and I did so in depth in my video dated October 7th, 2019, and entitled Logical Fallacies and Tricks of Argument Used by Dog Worshippers. That type of faulty logic is known as the fallacy of relative privation, usually expressed as not as bad as, or the appeal to worse problems, and sometimes, what about? I've given lots of examples related to dogs. For example, dogs only kill 40 people a year in the US. What about cars? They kill a lot more. Should we ban cars? I've even come across dogs being compared to coconuts or lightning strikes in the sense that they are not as dangerous as falling coconuts or lightning strikes. I have discussed these examples before, so we will not do so any further in this video. Dog and cat owners do this all of the time. You'll be familiar with the ideas of cats are better than dogs because, or dogs are better than cats because. There are claims that people of particular personality types gravitate towards owning a cat or owning a dog because of these personality characteristics. If you say that you don't like dogs, then an assumption is made that you are a cat person, and vice versa. It's as if owning one or the other is essential to normal human functioning, but the jury is still out as to which of the two is better. Comparing the relative benefits of cats and dogs is like comparing the relative benefits between cholera and typhoid. It's like recovering from a bad bout of food poisoning and musing over whether vomiting or diarrhea was better. I'm not going to compare dogs and cats because that could lead to providing nourishment to the fallacy of relative privation and allow canine and feline worshippers to use my words to justify their personal decisions to buy one particular species rather than another. From now on in this video, I will concentrate on why cat owning is a bad idea. An article in Vox summarizes the main reasons. These are: cats are an environmental disaster. Your cat probably doesn't love you. Your cat is not showing you affection. Your cat might be driving you crazy by transmitting the parasite Toxoplasma gondii, which affects your brain. And cats transmit a number of parasites and zoonotic diseases to humans. The original article placed the environmental disaster reason in third place. I have elevated it to the rightful position of first place. I have discussed the effects of toxoplasmosis on the human brain in previous videos. Cats are not a local or even a national problem. They represent a global pest problem. There is only one continent in which they do not pose an environmental disaster, and that is Antarctica, purely because there are no cats there. It is important to discuss the idea of cats as a global problem because cat worshippers, like dog worshippers, commonly engage in another type of logical fallacy. They argue from the specific or individual case to the general. I have discussed this before with the example of my pit bull is as gentle as a lamb. Therefore, all pit bulls are gentle and don't deserve the reputation they have. Cat owners will consider their own cat, and because it, as an individual, has never made a species go extinct, they reason that cats don't cause extinctions. Because their individual cat appears harmless to them, then they reason that cats as a species must also be harmless. Domestic cats impact on wildlife in a variety of ways, predation being the most significant. Cats also spread fear and disturbance through their presence and their scent. This distress can make the stressed animals and their offspring more vulnerable to predation by other animals. Because cats compete with indigenous carnivores, they can deprive these other predatory species of food, leading to starvation and death. For example, every mouse eaten by a cat is one less mouse for a hawk. Cats can spread diseases to other animals, for example, feline leukemia, toxoplasmosis, or rabies. In countries that have native cat species, domestic cats can interbreed with them, resulting in hybridization and a loss of specimens of the native cat. A good example of the danger of hybridization is the fate of the Scottish wildcat. Interbreeding with domestic cats has led a group called Scottish Wildcat Action to conclude that, quote, the wildcat in Scotland is at the verge of extinction, end quote. It is important to make clear that in this video, I am discussing the effects of the house cat or domestic cat known as Felis catus. Any reference to cats is to this type, not lions or leopards or jaguars or any of the other populations of wild cats. Estimates of the total global domestic cat population vary widely, from 200 million to 600 million, spread across house cats, stray cats, and feral cats. The top 10 cat-owning countries in the world are number 1, the USA, number 2, China, number 3, Russia, number 4, Brazil, number 5, France, number 6, Italy, number 7, the United Kingdom, number 8, Germany, number 9, Ukraine, number 10, Japan. Before I talk about the ecological impact of cats, I first of all want to briefly mention the role of cats as resource consumers and waste creators. It is difficult to separate out the impact of dogs and cats, as much of the information available refers to the joint impact of pet cats and dogs. Gregory Oken, a UCLA geography professor, calculated the amount of calories consumed by cats and dogs in the USA and came to the conclusion that the figure correlates to the total number of calories consumed by the entire country of France. The same article concluded that pets in the USA have the same environmental impact as 13.6 million cars. In the United States alone, pets produce as much feces as 90 million humans. All in all, American cats and dogs are responsible for producing about 64 million tons of methane and nitrous oxide, two powerful greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change, according to Oken's calculations. America's dogs and cats are responsible for 30% of the environmental impact of meat eating. If they were their own country, their meat consumption would rank 5th in the world. Pet ownership is skyrocketing in Asia, and that means dogs and cats' environmental footprint is just going to increase. A growing trend is to feed dogs and cats human-grade food. People who love cats use the same arguments as dog lovers, in that the meat eaten by cats would be meat that is wasted anyway, as it is not for human consumption. A response to this is that the luxury end of the cat food market is increasing and is widely advertised. These luxury brands use food that is suitable for humans. The UK charity Cats Protection points out that despite cats being naturally predatory animals, they're still not the primary cause of bird loss in the UK. But doubts still exist on the full impacts of cats hunting. The Royal Society for the Protection of Birds also agrees with this point of view and claims that most of the birds killed by cats are weak and sickly and would probably have died anyway. I find it puzzling that organizations whose purpose is to protect birds have such a supportive view of an unnecessary predator which kills millions of birds every year. Marius Adrian, part of the team for bird protection with the German Nature and Biodiversity Conservation Union, or NABU, has a different viewpoint. He states that, quote, "There is a clear influence of cats into birds' population. Above all, this is a key issue for regions with flightless birds," end quote. Rather than talk about the overall global impact of cats, I want to look at the impact of cats in each continent, starting with North America. I'm going to look at all of the countries in North America because there are only 3. It is impractical to look at every country in every continent, so I will discuss 1 or 2 representative countries in each continent. If your country is not discussed, please take the bother to look into cat damage in your country and inform us in the comments section. Starting in the north of North America, I want to look at Canada and then move south. In Canada, domestic cats, from pets to ferals, are estimated to kill between 100 and 350 million birds per year. Even at the lowest end of 100 million, this makes predation by domestic cats probably the largest human-related source of bird mortality in Canada. Cats have become an increasing problem in Quebec during the pandemic. The existing spay and neuter programs were already inadequate to the task of controlling the feral cat population, But the pandemic led to what has been described as a population explosion of stray feral cats. According to the SPCA, one female cat can produce 3 litters of at least 4 kittens a year. This can add up to 20,000 cats related to that female after 4 years. This process is being repeated in every part of the world. So from this statistic, we can see how unrestrained cats can overwhelm an environment. It is also worth making the point that the lives of these feral cats can be brutish, short, and painful, as they suffer accidents, diseases, predation, and human cruelty. In the United States, there are estimated to be between 60 million and 160 million feral cats. Joan Miners, a journalist with the New Orleans Advocate, responded to a proposal to deal with New Orleans' rat problem with more cats, responded in the following way. She gave 15 reasons why cats are a problem. These are: 1. Feral cats are ecological serial killers. 2. Feral cats kill for fun, abandoning dead animals that become food for more rats. 3. Outdoor cats kill between 1.4 billion and 3.7 billion songbirds every year. 4. Outdoor cats kill at least 6.9 billion mammals per year, most not rats. 5. So where does the idea of cats as rat killers come from? Ships in the 1800s. It was based on faulty knowledge and ineffective then as now. 6. Jack Russell Terriers might be better at killing rats anyway. I know I said I would not compare dogs and cats, but this is one of the 15 reasons provided. 7. Feral cats decimate the primary consumers of mosquitoes and other insect pests by taking out birds and bats. Feral cats may contribute to increased rates of mosquitoes and mosquito-borne diseases like Zika, West Nile virus, yellow fever, and malaria, which scientists say could be coming soon to New Orleans and other southern U.S. cities. Cats also take out reptiles and amphibians that consume a variety of small insects. 8. Cats are the top carriers of rabies among domestic animals in the U.S. 9. Cats spread toxoplasmosis. 10. The parasite in cat poop stays in the soil for a long time, especially in climates like Louisiana's. 11. Living with cats during childhood has been linked to increased risk of schizophrenia. 12. Exposure to feral cats could make you a bad driver or a poor student. Quote, research suggests that exposure to this parasite, Toxoplasma gondii, impairs mental functioning in lots of ways. Studies in humans and mice suggest it slows reaction time. People who have been the cause of auto accidents are more likely to have antibodies to Toxoplasma gondii. 13. Food left out for feral cats likely feeds city rats too. This means that the proposed solution to the rat problem would make it worse. 14. Outdoor cats are overwhelming not only wildlife, but animal shelters. 15. Studies suggest most trap-neuter release programs don't reduce cat populations. A 12-year study of feral cats in California and a 6-year study of feral cats in Florida concluded that to overcome the rate at which new kittens are born into the population, between 71 and 94% of outdoor cats would need to be sterilized. A 2018 analysis by researchers at the University of Maryland and the University of Guelph estimated that typical sterilization rates in feral cat populations subjected to TNR, or trap neuter release, range between 0.7 and 3.5%, with most achieving less than 1% sterilization of the population. Cats are not just a problem in the contiguous United States. Hawaii has become overwhelmed with feral cats. They are a problem at garbage transfer stations. One of the transfer stations is beside a nesting ground for threatened and endangered birds, so cats are a particular menace there. Councilwoman Eileen O'Hara said the county would need to spay or neuter 5,000 cats a year to get the population under control. She said about 800 are spayed or neutered annually now. In Hawaii, as in many other places, the cat problem is too great to manage effectively by trap, neuter, and release methods. They have had some success with cat-proof fencing to protect nesting birds and small mammals. Continuing with the island theme, I will now move on to Guadalupe Island in Mexico. Feral cats have caused the extinction of 6 species of birds on the island. A study by Aguirre et al. Estimated that cats were the cause of extinction for 16 types of birds and mammals on Mexican islands. Cats were introduced to Guadalupe Island, Mexico in 1885 as an attempt to control the house mouse, introduced 10 years earlier. Instead, the cats exterminated 6 species of endemic birds: the Guadalupe ruby-crowned kinglet, Guadalupe bewick's wren, Guadalupe rufous-sided towhee, Guadalupe northern flicker, Guadalupe caracara, and the Guadalupe storm petrel. The first extinction was just 7 years after the cats were introduced. Cats also completely destroyed the red-breasted nuthatch, white-throated swift, red crossbill, and red-tailed hawk, as well as caused a decline of several populations of seabird species, such as Xanthus's murrelet and Cassin's auklet. Globally, feral cats have been eradicated from 75 islands. I should point out here that such eradication programs are expensive and time-consuming, a cost borne by the taxpayer. This is another example of how your pet costs the rest of us. From these Mexican studies, it is quite clear that cats are not a solution to a pest problem. They are the pest problem. In my video entitled "Your Dog Costs Me," published on the 26th of October 2020, I outlined how much and in how many ways pet keeping costs the non-pet owner. In the case of Guadalupe and other Mexican islands, it is the Mexican taxpayers who have to pay for the government to study and act on advice to eradicate these vicious killer cats. Your cats cost me. Continuing southward to Brazil, the largest country in South America, we find that cats are a problem there as well. Brazil is estimated to have 21 million cats. It has all of the same cat-related problems described in other countries with an added issue. In a 2019 article published by the American Veterinary Medical Association, Greg Sima opened the article by stating that cats are spreading a nasty fungal infection to people in Brazil. He went on to say that the fungal species Sporothrix brasiliensis is spreading quickly among cats and has reached neighboring countries in South America, raising concerns within the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Veterinarians appear to be at higher risk for the disease than members of the general public. Cats pick up the fungus in their paws and spread it to other cats through scratching. If humans are infected, it can lead to slow healing lesions, joint pain, headaches, seizures, respiratory disorders, and in people with immunocompromised conditions, it can spread through the lymph nodes, causing lesions throughout the body. It has already started to spread to other countries in South America. In 2015, the Australian government committed itself to the culling of 2 million feral cats by 2020. This was to protect the indigenous wildlife that had been destroyed by cats. Australia does not have a greater number of cats than anywhere else, but their presence is more ruinous. Since there are no cats native to Australia, the native wildlife had adjusted over the millennia to a different predatory order and therefore found it difficult to respond to the presence of cats. Another issue is that much of their wildlife is unique to Australia and cannot recover from stocks elsewhere. Since the arrival of cats, 34 mammal species have gone extinct in Australia. All of them existed nowhere else on Earth. They are gone. More than 100 mammal species in Australia are listed as between near threatened and critical by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. The continent has the highest mammal extinction rate in the world. Cats are considered to have been a leading threat for 22 of the extinct species. The decision to kill so many cats was met with international opposition in the form of petitions and also appeals by celebrities. But it has gone ahead. The main method of culling is by shooting cats. Another method used is the dropping of poisoned sausages from planes. The poison, called 1080, derived from gastrolobium plants and highly lethal to animals like cats, whose evolutionary paths did not require them to develop a tolerance to it. John Wojnarski, one of Australia's foremost conservation researchers, said recent extinction rates in Australia are unparalleled. It's calamitous. In his book entitled Cats in Australia, Companion and Killer, Wojnarski revealed that each feral cat in the bush would kill about 740 animals per year. Meanwhile, a pet cat would kill about 75 animals annually. A study quoted in the book, carried out by Professor Legg, showed that domestic cats roamed much further than their owners thought they did. Suburban cats cannot be controlled by laying down poison or by shooting them. The main alternatives there would be legislation to keep cats indoors or to have wildlife havens protected by cat-proof fencing. And who's going to pay for that? Your cats cost me. In New Zealand, Gareth Morgan has started a campaign entitled Cats to Go. He wrote, "Imagine a New Zealand teeming with native wildlife, penguins on the beach, kiwis roaming about in your garden. Imagine hearing birdsong in our cities." He advised people to get rid of their cats in order to save the native wildlife. On his website, he asked people to respond to the question, in the interest of protecting native species, would you consider not replacing your cat with a new one when it dies? 74% of the respondents answered no. So it looks as if this is going to be a problem hampered by the emotional responses of pet owners rather than the logical and rational arguments of science. In continent after continent, cats kill wildlife, threatening and causing extinctions. In continent after continent, cats spread infections and parasites. Unfortunately, Asia is no exception. In an article published in Science Direct in January 2021 by Yuhang Li et al., they make the following observations. We estimate that the minimum annual amount of predation by all free-ranging cats in China is 1.61 to 4.95 billion invertebrates, 1.61 to 3.58 billion fishes, 1.13 to 3.82 billion amphibians, 1.48 to 4.31 billion reptiles, 2.69 to 5.52 billion birds, and 3.61 to 9.80 billion mammals. Thus, we show that free-ranging cats cause a tremendous death toll that may be profoundly impacting China's wildlife populations and biodiversity. In preparation for the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, the Chinese had to deal with a cat problem in the city. Thousands of cats were rounded up and dealt with. It is not clear what happened to them, but they disappeared. Clearly, the number of cats were an embarrassment for the local government, just as stray dogs were an embarrassment for Russia at the Sochi Winter Olympics in 2014. Now the cats are back in Beijing in similar numbers. In Japan, there were similar concerns for the staging of the 2020 Olympics, and they embarked on a rigorous trap-neuter release program in an attempt to deal with the problem. As we now know, the 2020 Olympics never took place, but the presence of cats in areas where events should have taken place were enough to shame authorities. One veterinarian in the city of Kumamoto launched a campaign to sterilize roughly 2,000 cats in a week in a bid to control the feline population. As we have seen already, it may be a hopeless task, as it is estimated that 71 to 94% of the cat population need to be sterilized for the scheme to be effective, and most TNR schemes sterilize around 1% of the population. It is interesting that countries will tolerate the presence of nuisance animals until there is a possibility of outside observers, such as Olympic spectators, seeing the sordid reality of a city overrun by pests. Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia. It is a continent of 54 countries, known for its cultural diversity, so I cannot hope to provide an all-encompassing picture as to the impact of cats. But cats do what cats do, and Africa is no different. In an article in Africa Geographic, Simmons et al. Make the following point in their introduction. These cuddly, charming felids are honed killing machines whose impact on biodiversity in South Africa is only now being fully revealed. Self-reporting by cat owners in Cape Town, South Africa, suggested that the average domestic cat killed 16 prey a year, mostly mammals. These estimates came from the number of kills that cats brought home. A different set of statistics emerged when cameras, called kitty cams, were attached to these cats. Data from these cameras showed that the true figure of cat predation was closer to 90 animals per cat per year. With an estimated 300,000 domestic cats in Cape Town, this means that domestic cats in that one city were killing around 27.5 million animals every year around that one city. These kitty cams showed that when cats killed reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates, They either consumed them or left the body where it was killed, so the researchers concluded that estimates of reptiles, amphibians, and invertebrates killed by cats is likely to have been under-recorded throughout the world. They estimate that 216 million prey animals are taken by cats every year in South Africa alone by domestic cats. Their study did not include feral cats, which are descendants of domestic cats. So the total figure of all cat predation by domestic, stray, and feral cats will be much higher. An important point to make is that cat owners have little idea of how destructive their own pets are. They will be aware of the fact that their cat occasionally returns with a dead animal, but will not be aware that these corpses represent a fraction of the damage their cat imposes on the local wildlife. In Europe, as elsewhere, it's the same old with cats. A Polish study showed some similarities with the South African study in that researchers realized that the damage that cats do to wildlife has been underestimated. Dr. Michał Smihorski of the Mammal Research Institute wrote that it was known that cats kill a lot, but the estimates we present surprise even us. The estimates that they provided for Poland were that cats kill approximately 631 million mammals and almost 144 million birds every year. The idea that cats are not just bad, they are much worse than that, is a refrain to be heard around the world. Dr. Smihorski concludes that we have to rethink our nature conservancy measures. He says, quote, "If cats kill so many animals, why are we not doing anything about it?" The legal situation today seems to be inconsistent. If I deliberately kill a bird of protected species, I will face consequences. But if I release a cat, which, as we know from our research, kills dozens of protected species, there are no consequences. End quote. The European Union has long had legislation concerning the protection of wildlife and birds. Article 12 of the Habitats Directive and Article 5 of the Birds Directive direct Union members to implement concrete and specific protection measures to ensure native bird species safety. 2 Dutch environmental lawyers wrote a piece in the Oxford Journal of Environmental Law in November 2019. In it, they suggested that because of these 2 existing directives, cat owners, by failing to prevent their pets from killing wild animals, were in fact breaking the law. Unsurprisingly, this was taken up by newspapers who reworked the story to suggest bureaucratic interference in the rights of cats and their owners. There seems to be never-ending examples of how cats negatively impact on the natural environment. Little seems to be proposed or implemented to protect the wildlife of every continent from cat predation. I have discussed some measures used to protect wildlife from cats, such as trap-neuter release and the use of cat-proof fencing, but both of these are limited. Allowing this problem to be voluntarily managed by cat owners and interested parties is not a feasible option. Indeed, it will take time, work, and political willpower to overcome the resistance of cat owners and interested parties, such as cat protection organizations and pet food manufacturers. In some countries, such as the United Kingdom, the idea of allowing domestic cats to run free is a firmly entrenched habit. Overcoming that will be difficult. An illustration of how important the concept of free-roaming cats is in the United Kingdom comes from a recent article in a British newspaper. The article is entitled "Meaty Meals and Play Stop Cats Killing Wildlife, Study Finds." The study is flawed by only taking returned animal corpses as evidence of their hunting habits. As we have seen in the South Africa study and others, cats only return about 1/5 of their kills to their home base, so it is not really known how the food and play impact on actual kills rather than kills which are returned home. It also fails to take into account animals that were injured by cats but managed to escape. The main flaw in the article is that at no time does it suggest reducing the number of cats or restricting their movements. This suggestion of feeding cats more meat provides a guilt reduction and responsibility avoidance for cat owners. Some countries may be more amenable to the idea of keeping cats indoors. Providing a cat with a cat-proof outdoor enclosure in which it can run free is an option open only to those with sufficient space and money. Other ideas that rely on cat owner cooperation and compliance, such as bells on collars or neoprene bibs that allow the cat to eat and drink but stop it from pouncing on prey, may be difficult to implement and monitor. For the idea of mass culling to be palatable to a population requires a major shift in how we perceive cats, their status among animals, and their relationship with humans. Australia managed to get acceptance of culling cats by running informative and explanatory campaigns and appealing to the value of a unique indigenous fauna. That may not work elsewhere. In order to marshal the public and political enthusiasm needed to deal with the cat problem, we need to change our romantic, fantasy-driven, humanizing relationship with cats and replace it with scientifically based knowledge. In an article published by Tilburg University entitled "Cats Must Stay Indoors to Protect Wildlife, Says European Law," the authors summarized the situation as follows. Quote, "The expected gains of removing cats from the landscape are considerable, and the costs are low when compared to the action needed to address climate change or to achieve ecologically sustainable agriculture." End quote. However, any attempts to control cats or their owners will be met with considerable resistance, so it will be a long time to change public opinion, particularly cat owner opinion. Gaining their compliance will be equally lengthy and difficult. In their minds, the life of a cat is worth much more than the 90 animals they kill a year or the extinctions they cause. When the Mail Online published an article about cats having a catastrophic effect on wildlife, the comments section was full of vitriolic, angry cat owners insulting the study and its authors. So, while the gains may be considerable and the costs low, the resistance will be high.